All right, in this second part, I'm just going to be real brief, but I feel like we need to talk about ChatGPT because not only can you utilize it if you're new and you need to learn coding, it's going to save you a buttload of time doing so. And it really does aid in the process, and it makes you feel like you're not so helpless, in this process of learning how to program. Because I can tell you from personal experience, when I first started learning programming, GPT was not out yet. It wasn't until about after a year that I started coding that GPT came out, and after it did, my learning rate increased tenfold. And I'm going to show you some tricks that I utilize to do this and how that you can use ChatGPT to your own advantage to leverage the tool itself, which is amazing in some aspects. It's not perfect and it does get stuff wrong. It's not going to be able to help you build complex problems that you don't understand yet. You're going to have to work up to that point, but it's just going to help you get there by, again, aiding you in that process, always having that assistant there to have your back, basically, but not relying on it fully. So please realize that you can do this. Don't feel like it's something that you can't do. Anybody can do it. If I can do it, trust me, anybody can. You have the tools at your disposal now on top of this to aid you in the process again. And again, no one else has had this in the past, so this is a new thing. So I would definitely recommend at least utilizing it. It does not cost anything as far as what we're going to be talking about in the tutorial. I will show you an example of what the paid version can do at the end. But if you want to just follow along this tutorial and not have to pay anything out of pocket, then you don't need to do so because we're going to be using the free version for the majority. So to utilize this, all you have to do is go to https://chat.openai.com/auth/login. That will take you to this page here. And then if you don't have an account, you have to make one. After you make one, go ahead and log in. After you log in, if you are going to get the Plus version, I'll make a separate video on how to get the API key and set that up and make your own script to actually get your Discord bot to where you can call it and have a conversation with it from in Discord. And I'll demonstrate that at the end with our GPT-4 bot. But when you first log in to GPT-3, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to have examples, capabilities, limitations. This is basically, your go-to for help. If you have questions about anything, if you try to run code and you get an error, you can literally just paste the error code back to GPT-3, and it will work with you on debugging it, and you will learn so much throughout that process. Because I'm telling you right now, you will learn the majority of how to program through errors. That is, I'm speaking from personal experience, at least that's how it was for me. I'm not sure if it's that way for everybody, but I have a strong feeling that, I'm not the only one that learns a lot from errors. So this is the main interface. I would definitely recommend bookmarking it if you have that capability, which you should. And from here, it's just basically you can ask it whatever you want. So we're going to go back to our bot file now. And I made a command earlier. I'm going to go back over that in a future video for those of you who are going to sign up for the Plus version of GPT-3. So as of right now, just going over our code again, all we have in our folder essentially is just our main bot class. So really, you don't really need to do much with this class whatsoever. So this code is a lot of noise that we're not going to go over at this moment in time. This just helps get our bot running. We will go over this later and what some of these functions do and what they mean in the future. But for now, what we can do to get this out of sight, out of mind, to get some noise off our screen is click this arrow here and just condense everything down, and you don't have to worry about all of that noise that's taking up the screen. Now we can easily define this code and explain what it's doing from a beginner level, but we still have our main bot class that's efficiently utilizing the login process. So we're importing DiskSnake, which is the main library that we're using throughout this, which is going to be how we create our embeds for Discord, how we create our drop-down menus, how we create buttons. There's components that you can create that display data in different ways. We're going to explore all of those. And then there's also slash commands, context commands, which means a command with a exclamation point in front of it. For example, that would be a context command. Then you have slash commands, which utilize the slash menu in Discord. So it comes with all of that, view classes, all of that stuff. We're going to go over all of it. But for now, I'm just going to explain what we have, and we're going to expand on this a little bit at a time. So again, we're importing that main library. We're importing an extension of that library, .ext, which is the commands extension, which is responsible for handling those slash commands I was referring to and the context commands. We're importing our bot token from the config file. We are defining our intents. We are defining our main class, which is just my bot that inherits from commands.bot, which again comes from this, our imported extension from DistSnake. Then we define our bot as my bot, and then pass in the command prefix, which we can set as whatever we want. In this example, I have it as exclamation point. You could set it to a greater than sign. You could set it to a period. You could set it to a question mark, whatever you want. We're going to go ahead and just use a exclamation point. And then you set intents equal to intents, which we have defined up here. So this basically, this intents variable is what it's called. This is referencing this. So from there, we define our first command, and this right here is called a decorator. So the @ sign on the top of this is always going to be this way for bot commands. And this is a context command. So if we wanted to do a slash command, it would be a little bit different. But for bot commands, it's simply @bot.command and then close dot parentheses. Every single time, it will always start with this as far as context commands, as long as your bot is named bot. After that, you will always put async def. So you can always just remember, this right here is always going to be the start of a bot command. Always. @bot.command, parentheses, async def, every time. Then after this, you're always going to name it. So in this case, we named it command, or what was it named? Control Z to backspace hello. We can change hello to goodbye. And then we could pass in context, which will always be, unless you are working from within a class, which is something we'll go over later, the first argument, as long as this bot command is outside of any kind of class, such as my bot. Like you see how this is all nested within my bot? As long as this is on the left-hand side of the screen, meaning it's outside of anything else, all you have to pass in for the first argument is going to be ctx, which is a part of the DistSnake library. And we can actually set it as commands.context. And dot notation is your friend. When you're using these terminals, especially in VS Code, when I type commands, whenever I do the dot, you see how this all comes up here? This is all of the options that I have to use. So you can actually scroll through here and learn a lot. But in this case, we're going to use context because that's what's going to actually be able to help send our messages back and forth. Now, from here, we can just simply say await, and whenever you're running an asynchronous function, and that's what we're doing here, there's two types that you can utilize as far as these commands. You can use synchronous or asynchronous. When it comes to Discord bots, you have to use asynchronous, so that's why you see async def, because it is actually asynchronous. Don't worry about the terminology. You don't have to worry about knowing it. Just pay attention to the structure of the code and what some of these different names are and what they do. So whenever you want to send any kind of message or anything, you're going to have to await the message, or await context.send in this case. Very logical. The context is the message. If you think about context, a message has context in it. All you're doing is you're awaiting context.send, and within those parentheses, you're defining what you want to send. So in this case, we're going to say goodbye. And then at the very tail end of the file, just make sure this bot.run is at the very left-hand side. And that's our final statement that runs the bot. That will always be at the bottom of the file. And we're just going to hit the green circle to refresh the bot. And we should be able to call this command now. And it's going to say goodbye instead of hello. Now I'm going to say goodbye. And it says goodbye, just like that. So anyways, that is a context command. To do a slash command, it's a little bit different. All you do, instead of doing @bot command, you do @bot.slash, and then you see how this context list comes up? You can just see right here, the very first one is slash command. And then you close it off with parentheses. And now whenever you close something off with parentheses and it's a function, a little box is going to come up and it's going to show you all of the different arguments that are able to be passed in. You don't have to pass in anything to the slash command, which is why you see this asterisk here at the beginning. The asterisk means it can be any amount of arguments. So we're going to go ahead and just not pass in anything to not get complicated. You could pass in stuff if you wanted to, but we'll go over that later. But for now, I'll just go over the basic structure. This is a slash command, and then just like the bot command, you put async def, async def, and then you give it a name, just like before. We're going to say hello, and then instead of context, slash commands work a little bit differently, but it's very easy to remember. You'll get in the habit. It's slash is for interactions, context is context. There's interactions, and then there's context. There's two different things. Context is for context commands, and slash is for slash commands, which are interactions. So the way we define interactions is we say interaction colon thisnake dot application. Then you see these helpers come up, application command interaction, which is a lot. I know there's an abbreviated version you can use as well, which I'll go over a little bit later on as well. So that is the context, or that is the argument we're going to pass in. It's just interaction. And then from here, we're going to do the same thing, await, but instead of context, we just use interaction dot send hello. So it's pretty much the same thing. The only difference is we're changing context to interaction. And instead of defining context commands.context, we're defining interaction thisnake.application command interaction. And that's how it'll be every time, for the most part. We'll get into the more complicated stuff later on. But for now, pretty simple. So we're going to go ahead and see if our slash command has registered. And the way slash commands work is if you hit slash, see this menu on the left-hand side, we have a bunch of different options. We have all kinds of different bots here. You're going to look for your bot, and you should have it based on the icon that you have set up in your developer portal. If you did not have an icon set, you should just see a default logo. In our case, it's going to be a orangish icon here. It'll look similar to that with the Discord logo in the middle. You may have to give it the necessary roles to be able to access certain channels. So I'm going to go ahead and give mine the admin role, so it'll have privileges to use commands in this channel. So when I hit slash now, I should be able to see it at some point. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page with Control R. And whenever you're working with code, it's always good to be in Discord from the website. So if you need to, you can access the developer window, which we'll go over that later too. So let's see if we can see our bot now. I still don't see it in there. I'm going to go ahead and restart the bot file. But sometimes, slash commands can take up to an hour, I believe, to register. So that could be what's going on here. So you just have to keep that in mind. It does take a minute for slash commands to show up. But you see it's here in the sidebar, but it's not showing up on the list yet. But I'm going to show you the bot we have here. So you see how all of these commands are here. It's very, very easy to scroll through on the computer. It's a little bit more difficult on the phone, but there's no limit to what you can do as far as commands. A lot of different data opportunity. I still don't see that bot though. I'll refresh one more time, see if it'll show up. I'm going to double check the code as well. Bot.slash command. Yeah, that looks right. So we'll see. It may take a minute. Let's try to type in the command. Oh, it's right there. Okay, so my icon is a little different than I saw in Discord. I guess I have one saved on this one that I didn't that I forgot about. But anyways, this is the one that we just made. In my case, you should see. In your case, if you didn't pick an icon, this is an old bot that I had that I'm using. If you didn't pick an icon, you should see just a standard Discord bot icon like this. I'm not sure why it's showing up different though in the slash panel than it is in the chat. That's kind of strange. But anyways, let's test it. So yeah, same bot, it's just different icon. That was weird. So that was the confusing part. So anyways, if that confused you just then, what just happened is that whenever I was looking for the bot that I made from our code here, the same one that used the context command goodbye, I was trying to utilize the slash command we made by hitting slash, but I couldn't see it in this list because the icon was different than what was showing in the chat. I was looking for something yellow or orange like this, but it was this one here, which I had no idea. Yours should be the same than what you see in the Discord. So if yours is like green or orange, you should see that in that list. So we can confirm now that the slash command works. Basically the same functioning, just you're accessing a little bit differently, in this case through a slash command, which I think is pretty nice. I think it's easier to use the slash because you get the nice list with the helpers. You can add explanations. So again, you see how there's a dash right there? We can add the description by adding a space between definition of the command and the context.send, and we can put two sets of quotes, 3 each, and we can type says goodbye in chat, and then for hello, same thing, says hello in chat. Refresh it, go back to the bot and run the command again, and it should reflect in the tooltip now. So now you can clearly see that it says hello in chat. So you're basically adding a description, makes it a little bit more user-friendly if you have a Discord server with a lot of members in it. But yeah, that's basically it for the commands and ChatGPT as far as using it now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this command, hello and goodbye, since we have a pretty good understanding of what they are, how they work. We're going to paste them to this bot, and we're going to say, can you improve this with some added functionality that incorporates let's not do buttons yet, let's do embeds. And now it's going to take our prompt, unless it lags out on me here. Certainly, here's an improved version of your code that incorporates embeds in both the goodbye command and the hello slash command. So it's going to go ahead, it reiterated basically all of our code. What we're going to do is we're just going to take everything from the bottom of the second command, which is the hello command, the await statement. We're just going to take it from there and copy those 2 commands. And we're going to just go ahead and paste them back into our file. And it did get the embed wrong. So this is not the correct way to define a dissnake embed unless you import it this way. I find that to be unnecessary. You can just simply type dissnake.embed, dissnake.embed. The way the bot was wanting to do it, it was wanting to actually from dissnake import embed, and then that way you can erase the dissnake and just use embed. So either way will work. But for this example, we're just going to go ahead and refresh the bot, and we're going to run the command again so you can see the difference in what changed. And again, this is where the instant gratification comes in. So we're going to do goodbye again and see if it got it right. So you see how it's different now? This is a Discord embed. It's a different way to display the message, and it looks a little bit nicer, right? So if you look at this, like this is a embed. It's a very, very much nicer way to display data in Discord rather than just straight up text in the chat. So a little bit nicer, and you can add stuff to the embed. So although it did help us add some additional stuff to our message, it didn't add much. So what we can do from here is what it did, it defined the embed as embed, and then the embed takes in some pretty, common sense arguments. And to view those arguments, let's go ahead and erase this and just start over. And when we define embed, we do dissnake.embed, as soon as we do the parentheses, we're going to see all of the arguments that we can pass in. We see title, we see description, we see timestamp, we see color, we see URL. Those are all the options we can pass in. So in most cases, you're going to want to pass in a title and a description. Basically, that is going to be the main 2 things that most of your embeds are going to contain. So title is going to be, this is the title of the goodbye message, and your title is limited in characters. I think it's 108 characters that you have that you can fill up in here before it'll throw an error. And then to separate your arguments, you just do comma, and then it'll show you the argument list again. So you do description, and then it'll help you, realize that, okay, description equals, so that must be an argument. If you don't see it, if you're typing it and you don't see it, that means it's either not a required argument or it's not in the documentation here. So description equals, we're just going to put, this is the description, spelled description right, DESCRIPTION, of the goodbye message. And then if your code's running off the screen, you can just make a line break after the comma like this, and it will make it a little bit nicer to read and a little bit more manageable. So we have title, description, and then after description, we're going to do a color equals, and then Disnake's a little weird the way they spell color. It's disnake.col, capital COUR, and then when you hit dot again, you're going to have your color list. So you just pick the color you want. Let's do dark purple, and we're going to do parentheses to close it off. Then we can do, let's do a URL, I guess. We'll do URL equals https://google.com. That will be the URL that we can click on at the top of the embed. And then that is all we're going to pass in for now. We'll close it off with the parentheses just down here. And that is our embed. Now you can also add fields as well. So to add a field, it's simply embed dot add field. And then fields take 2 mandatory arguments every time. It's going to be name and value. And then there's a third optional argument, which is inline, which basically, if inline is true, it's going to give it its own column in the embed. Embeds have 3 columns per row, and there is a total of 25 fields that you can have per embed. So if you try to make more than 25, it'll throw an error. So each field takes name. So there's going to be field name 1, value is going to be field value 2. Now I'm going to pause here because this is an example of when you can use GPT. So you see how there's field 1 and field 2 here? Now this is what I can do. I can take embed add field, and I can say, that's GPT-4. We're going to say, please create the maximum amount of fields and name them in sequential order. What it's going to do is going to copy the rest of our code, but we're only going to take what we need out of it. So it's going to do basically this is called a for loop. I did it for both commands. Okay, so we're going to take this, and we're going to paste it back. And now what it essentially has done is it reiterated our title and description correctly, but it did not, see how it threw out the URL and the color? So we're going to re-add that now. It threw that out, so we're going to do color. We have to type that again now. See what I mean? It's not perfect. Disnake.color.dark purple with the parentheses. And then we had our URL defined as Google. And we're just going to copy this now, paste this here, and change this to hello. Hello, how are you? We'll change this one to, let's do dark teal. And now it's accurate. So what it's done is it's saying for I in range, 1 out of 26, which I think that may throw an error. That's 1 too many. Embed.add field name, I. So it's saying for the range, for every 1, it's going to add in that number. That's how it's going to add each number correctly and not just repeat field 1, field 1, field 1 over and over again. So this will sequentially increment the field names and values to the corresponding number or index that it's currently in, which is set at a range from 1 to 26. So this is going to create 26 fields, which is too many. So let's do 25. This should be the correct amount. And we'll do the same here for this slash command, which everything looks correct there. So we're going to go ahead and restart this now. And we're going to run that command again. Let's do goodbye. And there you have it. There's your fields. And I guess that was correct. It did add in, because maybe, okay, when you're in range, it doesn't start at 0 index. It starts at 1 index. So the bot was actually correct in that I could have used the code that it had here, 1 to 26. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that. And sometimes it is right. Restart. And we're going to call the command again. And that is correct. So that is an embed, and obviously this is just a standard implementation, but you can utilize this in a lot of different ways. You have 25 different spots now that you can use to put data out however you want. You got a link there we can click. It takes us to Google. So pretty cool stuff. But anyways, that is embeds, an example of how you can use ChatGPT. We're going to be using it a lot in the tutorial just so I can show you, but should help aid in the process.